At that moment, she realized she was completely lost and alone and needs someone on her side. So, when Captain Ri saved her from being caught by a military jeep, she decided to play the ultimate innocent woman in trouble act. She, being overconfident on her poor act, assumes that her charm is working on him. Little does she know, Jeong-Hyeok, while staring at her, is having a serious internal debate. Should he help her or just kill her to avoid trouble she could cause? He decides to take her to his place, where he makes ramen for her. But she is doubtful. Has he poisoned it or not? So she tries to trick him into taking the first sip by insisting it's a polite South Korean custom. He just gives her that classic deadpan and asks her, "Are you concerned about what is in the food? In case it's poisonous." But he admits he would not trust a stranger with a crazy tornado story either. So fair enough. She then tries to impress him and tell him that she's super famous in South Korea, though she still doesn't want to tell him her name because she does not want him to search her online and get a shock. Jeong-Hyeok looks at her like he has zero interest in knowing her and tell her we do not have internet. So don't worry. She assures her family is leading a nationwide search for her. The reality? Her brothers are secretly hoping she stays lost forever so they can snatch the company, while her dad is the only one actually trying to find her quietly to avoid a media circus. Se-Ri, now feeling a bit more confident, tells Jeong-Hyeok to treat her well because she will reward him handsomely when she gets home. He couldn't care less. Just then his soldier, Chi-Soo, shows up at the gate with great news. He says that the missing South Korean woman is dead. There was an accident at a mountain and they just assume it was her. He's so relieved, he starts listing all their mistakes out loud. Eun-dong was crying over his mom's letter. Ju-meok was watching illegal dramas. I was drinking, and you, Captain, stepped on a mine instead of catching her. He looks up, and whoops, there she is. Se-Ri, leaning in the doorway, having heard every single word. The rest of the squad shows up to share the good news, and their jaws hit the floor when they see her alive and well. Se-Ri immediately figures out who's who and calls them all out, especially mocking Ju-meok for his stairway to heaven obsession. She immediately tries to take charge, demanding they just take her back to where she landed. Chi-Soo suggests they let her try out the newly repaired electric fence, but Jeong-Hyeok explains they can't go back into the restricted area. When Chi-Soo jokes that burying her would be easy, Se-Ri threatens to teach him some creative South Korean curses. She then asks the million-dollar question: why haven't they just turned her over to the authorities? From their guilty, panicked looks, she pieces it together instantly. They're all terrified she'll rat them out for their incompetence. Ju-meok pipes up with a potential solution. His uncle does secret boat-to-boat transfers in international waters in 3 days. Se-Ri whines that she has a big shareholder meeting, but Jeong-Hyeok has finally had enough. He snaps that she's the one who ran the wrong way and should be apologizing for all the trouble she's caused. He gives her an ultimatum. He can turn her into the scary secret police right now. All the soldiers look heartbroken at this idea, or she can wait 3 days for the boat. But if she stays, she has to follow some rules. Number 1, never leave the house. Number 2, do not spread any of her decadent South Korean ideas to any of them. And finally, once she gets home, she's not allowed to tell anyone what happened here. Se-Ri immediately promises she'll develop a very convenient case of amnesia, to which Ju-meok, the expert on South Korean dramas, confirms, yeah, they get amnesia all the time there. She then just made most outrageous claim that she usually eats meat at least 2 out of 3 meals a day, to which Chi-Soo blame her that she's lying to trick them. So she pretend to feel faint. I'm just so weak. I haven't eaten properly. If only I had some meat. Back home, Secretary Hong meets with Soo-chan, an insurance salesman who was recently introduced to Se-Ri by him. Soo-chan is practically floating on air, bragging about landing a huge contract with her company and how he's been sassing his annoying boss now that he's a big shot. His smile instantly vanishes when Secretary Hong tells him the news that Se-Ri is missing. Soo-chan turns ghost white. Later, he goes to church to desperately pray for her safe return. Ironic because who's also there? Ji, who is quietly praying for the exact opposite. How awkward. Meanwhile, in Captain Ri's North Korean village, it's kimchi-making day. All the women are salting cabbage together. The leader of the group, the sharp and observant Young-yi, reminds everyone that today is the day their favorite handsome bachelor, Captain Ri, returns home. The ladies gossip about how they've already stocked his house with food. They even sneakily hid some precious meat in the salt crock and other goodies in his kimchi cellar. Se-Ri, who has never seen a kimchi cellar in her life, is fascinated and starts to ask many questions. Jeong-Hyeok has to quickly shush her before she accidentally reveals her fancy South Korean ignorance. Eun-dong is from a much smaller village, and Se-Ri is amused that the soldiers consider Yoon-Hyuk's cooking over a coal briquette to be modern. The whole squad sits down for a meal, and it's actually kind of sweet. The soldiers keep secretly passing bits of their precious meat to Se-Ri. They're already wrapped around her finger. After they eat, Yoon-Hyuk says the guys have to return to their posts. To which she asked, "Are you leaving me here alone?" Before he goes, Yoon-Hyuk shows her his ancient phone. He gives her one strict rule. She can only dial 5 to call his office in a true life-or-death emergency. So what does she do? She immediately calls him for an urgent emergency. She has no body wash, no shampoo, and she desperately needs a scented candle for her bath. "I am dying." Somehow, Yoon-Hyuk doesn't lose his mind. He patiently explains how to haul hot water inside from the big outdoor cauldron and how to set up a plastic sheet over the tub to keep the steam in. It's a ton of work, but even Se-Ri has to admit to herself that it's actually pretty nice, like her own private spa. While Se-Ri is figuring out her rustic bath situation, Yoon-Hyuk gets a call. The grave robbers he caught, they were killed in an accident at Mount Suseok. Something feels off, so he goes to investigate. He drives to the SSD to meet with the senior colonel and discovers Officer Joe is also present there. The senior colonel offers Yoon-Hyuk some illicit Maxim Gold coffee, which Yoon-Hyuk politely refuses. He expresses his desire to investigate the incident that resulted in the deaths of the grave robbers, questioning whether it was deliberate and, if so, who was responsible. Officer Joe grants Yoon-Hyuk authorization to pursue the investigation and recommends that he visit the trial bureau in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. After Yoon-Hyuk excuses himself, Officer Joe tells the senior colonel that he is friends with the director of the trial bureau. The senior colonel asks, why is Yoon-Hyuk so confident? Does he have a strong family background? To which Officer Joe replied that his resume doesn't reflect any family background. After that, they discuss their new scheme. A mega-rich con artist, none other than Gu Sung-jun, the guy who scammed Se-Ri's brother, is trying to buy his way into North Korea. Sung-jun is offering a ridiculous amount of money for a life of luxury, a mansion, servants, bodyguards, and access to golf and casinos. He warns them that all his money is in secret offshore accounts, so if anything happens to him, they'll never get it. It's a dangerous game, but he signs the contract, officially making a deal with the devil. Back in the village as the sun goes down, the electricity is shut off for the night, plunging everything into darkness. Se-Ri freaked out by the sudden blackout. She tries to call Yoon-Hyuk on his phone, but it's dead without any electricity. She gets scared when she hears a noise outside, and she grabs a vase to use as a weapon if anyone breaks in. Thankfully, it's just Yoon-Hyuk returning home. The second she sees him, all the fear and stress of the day just pours out, and she bursts into tears right there on the doorway. Yoon-Hyuk is completely confused by her crying. He just holds out a candle. He actually remembered her ridiculous request from earlier, but through her sobs, Se-Ri wails, "I wanted a scented candle," before collapsing into apologies for being such a flustered mess. She's just so overwhelmed and scared. Meanwhile, women of the village are working their own kind of magic, from which one of them, Wool-suk, is nagging her husband about a promotion. He just grumbles that it is all up to the senior colonel and tells her to go suck up to his wife. So Wool-suk heads over, only to find a bunch of other wives already there, all with the same idea. One of them is even pedaling a stationary bike to power the TV. The hustle is real. Over there in Seoul, Se-Ri's sisters-in-law are discussing, now that she is gone, which of their husbands will get the company. Back at Yoon-Hyuk's, she tries to explain the concept of stocks and shareholders to him, wondering out loud which of her horrible brothers is trying to steal her company now that she's gone. She even shares a story about once trusting a friend with a lot of money for an investment and losing it all. Just talking about it makes her start crying again. She's embarrassed to be so emotional in front of him. So he blew out the candle and softly said from the darkness, "It's okay. I can't see you now." When she's finally calmed herself, he tells her he has to go to Pyongyang in the morning and might not be back before she leaves, but his men will take care of her. She asks for his name, promising to repay him one day. He just says it's not necessary and reminded her of the most important rule. Once she's home, she is to forget any of this ever happened. After he goes to bed, Se-Ri lights the candle again and looks through the bag he brought her. Her eyes go wide. It's not just any toiletries. It's full of expensive South Korean body wash, shampoo, skincare, and even some really pretty lingerie. He went to the marketplace and bought out the entire stock of a lady who secretly sold South Korean goods. The next morning, Yoon-Hyuk arrives in Pyongyang, ready to investigate the grave robbers' deaths. But instead of being put on the case, he's immediately detained. He's taken to the trial bureau, thrown into a cell, and forced to sit down in a chair that looks terrifyingly like something used for executions. He's not the investigator anymore, he's the one being investigated. Yoon-Hyuk is in a seriously tight spot, stuck in that scary electric chair. The director of the trial bureau is accusing him of being responsible for the grave robbers' deaths. When Yoon-Hyuk asks for any actual proof, the director just smirks and says, "Proof. We can make up whatever crimes we want." Instead of being scared, Yoon-Hyuk just gives him a look and says, "You will be held accountable for every word you just said." And right on cue, a high-ranking general storms in. He doesn't ask questions, he just kicks the director, takes Yoon-Hyuk to his office, and let drop the massive bombshell on the director. "You idiot. You are so doomed." Yoon-Hyuk isn't just any soldier. He's the one and only son of the director of the General Political Bureau, the man who controls the entire North Korean military. The screw director calls Officer Cho Cheol-Gang and furiously tells him who he just tried to mess with. Turns out, Yoon-Hyuk had an older brother who died, making him not just an important son, but his father's only surviving son. Cheol-Gang suddenly remembers knowing the older brother, Moo-Hyuk, and even meeting a young Yoon-Hyuk years ago. This changes everything. Back at the house, things are less dramatic but way more hilarious. Yoon-Hyuk's squad is apparently there to fix the water pump. In reality, it's an excuse to keep an eye on Se-Ri. She and Chi-Soo again started cursing, arguing and insulting each other like an old married couple. Meanwhile, in the general's office, the conversation gets serious. The general asks Yoon-Hyuk why he's so obsessed with this crash investigation. Is this because it reminds him of his own brother's tragic accident? Yoon-Hyuk doesn't deny it. He lays out his theory. There have been several suspicious accidents over the years, all involving the same type of Russian Kamaz truck. He thinks there might be a secret government unit using them. He even knows there were 3 of those specific trucks in the area when the grave robbers died. The general warns him that when you're looking for a conspiracy, everything starts to look like one. He gently suggests that Yoon-Hyuk should maybe let the past go. But from the look on Yoon-Hyuk's face, it's clear that's the one thing he will never, ever do. Just as Yoon-Hyuk's squad is leaving his house, who do they run into? None other than the shady officer, Cho Cheol-Gang, taking cover in the dark. He tells them he's doing random inspections tonight. Poor Ju-meok is so scared he gets a full-blown hiccup attack on the spot. The second Cheol-Gang is out of range. Chi-Soo desperately calls Yoon-Hyuk. There's a huge problem. They can't call the house to warn Se-Ri because they specifically told her never to answer the phone. Hearing this, Yoon-Hyuk immediately asks the general for a huge favor. Next thing you know, he's tearing through the streets in a car with a license plate that basically screams, "I'm a VIP, get out of my way." Traffic lights turn green. Security stops, wave him through. He's flying back to his village. Back at the neighborhood, the inspection is in full swing, led by the fabulous Wool-Suk. The biggest crime she uncovers are an illegal South Korean rice cooker, which she conveniently sees for herself, and a husband who's cheating on his wife. Then it's time to inspect Yoon-Hyuk's house. Wool-Suk even freshens up her lipstick for the occasion, for the handsome captain. But Officer Joe shows up personally for this one. He sees lights on in the house and gets instantly suspicious. Why is the place lit up if the captain is away? Inside, a totally oblivious Se-Ri is having a lovely time snooping through Yoon-Hyuk's stuff. She discovers he has a huge collection of books, many about music. She even finds an old flyer for a music university in Switzerland, with a picture of a much younger Yoon-Hyuk on it. She stares at it, thinking, he looks so familiar. Where do I know him from? Her thoughts are interrupted by a loud knock and Wool-Suk's voice announcing the inspection. Before Se-Ri can even process it, Officer Joe lets himself in. He pokes around and finds a photo of Yoon-Hyuk with his older brother, finally confirming his powerful family connection. He's about to leave, satisfied there's no one in the house. As they're leaving, Officer Joe decides to check the kimchi cellar. He yanks the door open, and there she was hiding inside the kimchi cellar. He points his gun right at her and orders her to come out. The whole village gathers to watch, as Officer Joe marches a terrified Se-Ri to his vehicle, announcing he's taking her to the State Security Department for interrogation. It looks hopeless, but then, the crowd suddenly parts like the Red Sea. to allow Jeong-Hyeok to pull up his fancy number plate car. He steps out, calm and collected, and walks straight toward Officer Joe, who now has his gun pressed right against Se-Ri's head. Without even raising his voice, Jeong-Hyeok says the most iconic line imaginable. "I would appreciate it if you would put away the gun you're pointing at my fiancé." The entire village's jaws hit the floor. Se-Ri's eyes practically pop out of her head. Fiancé?